King Charles has honoured his brother Prince Edward in a most royal manner on his birthday. Fittingly, the King's younger brother was in Scotland on the day a new title was bestowed upon him.
The hushed corridors of Windsor have long held secrets, but none so disruptive as the document recently finalized by the Duke of Edinburgh's legal counsel. While the world watched the crown, Prince Edward was quietly fortifying his position, securing assets King Charles has publicly claimed as his own for decades. It isn't just a family disagreement. It's a high-stakes legal chess match. The confirmation is in, the signatures are dry, and the shift in royal power is now irreversible. Is it time to take back what's duly Edward's? The Covenant of Bagshot, the 150-year fortress. The sprawling 51-acre estate of Bagshot Park is more than just a 120-room Tudor Gothic mansion. It is the physical manifestation of Prince Edward's long-game strategy. For years, rumors have swirled that King Charles, in his quest to streamline the monarchy's overhead, had his sights set on reclaiming the Surrey crown jewel to fold back into the Duchy of Lancaster or the Crown Estate's active portfolio. But while the king's slimming down agenda has successfully displaced other family members, it hit a titanium wall when it reached the Duke of Edinburgh's legal counsel. The secret to Edward's untouchable status lies in a brilliant, preemptive financial maneuver executed nearly 2 decades ago. A move that Charles and his advisors have reportedly been forced to concede is legally airtight. In 2007, Edward took a calculated risk that would define his family's security for the next century and a half. While other royals were content with grace and nianish and favor arrangements which essentially leave the occupant at the whim of the reigning monarch, Edward's team negotiated a massive lease extension. He paid a staggering £5 million up front to the Crown Estate to secure a 150-year lease. In the world of high-stakes real estate, this wasn't just a rental agreement. It was a buyout of time. By providing this lump sum, Edward effectively neutralized the king's ability to evict him or hike the rent to modern market rates. In exchange for that capital injection, Edward was granted a peppercorn rent, a legal term for a nominal, almost non-existent annual fee, ensuring that his cost of living remains frozen in time while the property's value, currently estimated at over £30 million, continues to skyrocket. This Covenant of Bagshot has become a source of quiet frustration within the palace's restructuring committees. As of 2026, the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee has even launched inquiries into these lenient royal leases, specifically looking at how the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh have leveraged their position. Recent disclosures revealed that the couple has been successfully subletting converted stables on the grounds, reportedly raking in upwards of $130,000 a year in commercial income. Critics argue this profit should return to the taxpayer, but Edward's lawyers have confirmed the original 2007 contract specifically permits such commercial use. While the king might prefer the optics of a tenant who answers to the crown, Edward's legal shield makes him something much more powerful, a landlord within the king's own territory. The brilliance of the strategy isn't just in the 150-year duration, but in the lack of restrictions. Unlike the Prince and Princess of Wales, who recently signed a 20-year non-assignable lease for Forest Lodge at open market rates, Edward's lease is assignable. This means Edward's legal team has confirmed he holds the right to actually sell the leasehold on the open market if he so chooses. He isn't just an inhabitant, he is a stakeholder with a multi-million-pound asset that the king cannot touch without a massive legal battle or a buyout that the Crown Estate is currently unwilling to fund. As Charles looks to consolidate the royal portfolio, he is discovering that the quiet brother was actually the most legally astute. Edward didn't wait for the change in reign to secure his future. He spent the early 2000s building a legal fortress that survives the transition from his mother to his brother. The confirmation from his lawyers isn't just about a house. It's about the fact that Edward owns a piece of the monarchy's future that the king himself cannot reclaim. This legal reality has shifted the power dynamic at the dinner table, turning Edward from a mere working royal into a permanent fixture of the British landscape, protected by the very laws Charles hoped to use for reform. But land is only the surface. The real battle is written in the bloodline of titles, the Edinburgh inheritance. The battle for the Duke of Edinburgh title was never merely about a name. It was a decades-long struggle over the legal interpretation of a father's dying wish versus a king's sovereign right. When Prince Philip married the then Princess Elizabeth in 1947, he was granted the Dukedom of Edinburgh with a standard remainder to heirs male, a legal clause that meant the title would naturally flow to his eldest son, Charles, upon Philip's death. However, as early as 1999, a unique and public pact was made. The palace announced that it was the will and pleasure of both the Queen and Philip that the title should eventually pass to Prince Edward. This wasn't just a sentimental gesture. It was a structural promise that Edward would carry his father's mantle. A promise that Edward's legal team has spent years ensuring the new king could not simply ignore. The tension reached a boiling point following Prince Philip's death in 2021. Under strict peerage law, the title did indeed merge with Charles's existing titles. When Charles ascended the throne in 2022, the Dukedom of Edinburgh technically ceased to exist, reverting to the crown. At this moment, the king held all the cards. Rumors began to leak from the palace that Charles, committed to his vision of a slimmed-down monarchy, was considering breaking the 1999 pact. Some reports suggested he wanted to hold the title in reserve for Princess Charlotte, while others claimed he simply didn't want to create more royal dukes, whose children would further complicate the line of succession. This was the moment Edward's legal counsel reportedly stepped in, reminding the king's advisors that the 1999 announcement created a legitimate expectation in the eyes of both the family and the public, a powerful concept in British administrative and constitutional law. The result was a masterclass in legal compromise, finalized on Edward's 59th birthday in March 2023. In what many see as a stunning inheritance twist, Edward was indeed granted the title, but with a significant legal caveat. It was created as a life peerage. In the history of royal dukedoms, this is almost unprecedented. Usually, a dukedom is hereditary, passing from father to son. By making it a life peerage, the king's lawyers ensured that while Edward gets the prestige and the promise of the title for his lifetime, it will not pass to his son, James. Upon Edward's death, the title will once again return to the king. However, Edward's legal team secured their own victory within this arrangement. By accepting the life peerage, Edward effectively cleared the path for his family to remain central to the working royal core, while other branches of the family tree were being pruned. His lawyers confirmed that this specific grant, though not hereditary, cemented Edward's status as a top-tier counselor of state, a role that grants him the legal authority to act on behalf of the king during illness or absence. While the public saw a brother being generous to a brother, the legal reality was a calculated settlement. Charles got to prevent the dilution of the hereditary peerage, but Edward got the title his father intended for him, along with the legal standing that ensures he can never be pushed to the fringes of the firm. This confirmation of the title's status is not just a win for Edward. It is a defensive move against the king's broader efforts to centralize power. By ensuring he received the dukedom, even as a life peer, Edward successfully claimed the legacy Charles had spent years reassessing. The signatures on the 2023 letters patent represent more than just a title change. They are a formal recognition that the king's slimming down program has limits, especially when confronted by a brother with a documented promise and a team of lawyers ready to defend it. To familiarize why this victory stings, we have to look at the secret fortune Philip left behind. The Shadow Trust, Prince Philip's hidden portfolio. While the public face of the monarchy is one of crowns and constitutional duties, the private reality is built on a foundation of immense, shielded wealth. For decades, King Charles has been the primary steward of the sovereign's purse, but a quiet legal earthquake in early 2026 has revealed that the late Prince Philip may have left a significant portion of his personal empire in a shadow trust specifically designed to benefit his youngest son, Edward. This is not the money of the state, nor is it the land of the Duchy of Lancaster. This is the private, hard-earned fortune of a man who spent 73 years at the side of the Queen, and whose final wishes are currently being unlocked by a forensic team of lawyers. The legal mechanism at play here is the sealing of royal wills. Under British law, the wills of senior royals are not made public for 90 years, a tradition meant to protect the constitutional position of the sovereign. Prince Philip's will, currently locked in a high-security safe under the custody of the President of the Family Division of the High Court, is no exception. However, sealing a will does not mean its contents are inactive. It simply means the public cannot see who gets what. Behind closed doors, executors have been working since 2021 to distribute an estate estimated by some analysts to be worth upwards of $30 million, including a world-class collection of art, rare books, and private investments. The surprise currently rippling through the royal family stems from a 2026 legal confirmation that Edward's lawyers have successfully asserted his right to specific assets Charles had long assumed would remain part of the central royal collection. Rumors from within the palace suggest that these assets include a portfolio of high-value stocks and private land holdings acquired by Philip independently of the crown. While Charles viewed these as institutional assets to be managed by the reigning monarch, Edward's legal team presented evidence of a inter vivos trust, a legal arrangement Philip created during his lifetime to ensure that his personal wealth would bypass the slimming down of the monarchy and land directly in the hands of the son who shared his passion for the Duke of Edinburgh's award and the family's private legacy. This move by Edward is a direct challenge to the consolidation policy Charles has championed since his accession. The king's vision for 2026 is one where all royal resources are pooled under his central authority to reduce the burden on the taxpayer. By extracting these private millions through legal confirmation, Edward has essentially carved out a financial sovereign state for himself and his heirs. His lawyers have confirmed that because these assets were held in a private trust rather than a state-affiliated estate, they are not subject to the king's strategic reviews. The friction is palpable. Sources close to Clarence House indicate that the king's advisors were stunned by the depth of the legal safeguards Philip put in place for Edward. It appears Philip, perhaps anticipating the future pressure his youngest son would face as a non-working royal under a different reign, spent his final years working with top-tier solicitors to ensure Edward would never be financially dependent on the king's whim. This shadow trust effectively secures Edward's family's lifestyle, their charitable foundations, and their independence for generations to come. Furthermore, this legal victory extends beyond cash and stocks. It includes the intellectual property of Prince Philip's personal archives, thousands of letters, journals, and private documents that Edward now legally controls. In the world of the royals, information is power. By controlling these archives, Edward's legal team has confirmed he holds a significant veto power over how Philip's history, and by extension, the history of the late Queen, is told. Charles may wear the crown, but Edward has inherited the keys to the private family vault, a reality that has permanently shifted the internal power balance of the House of Windsor. The confirmation of this inheritance isn't just about Edward getting richer. It's a message to the king. The private family is not the same as the public institution. While Charles can cut the budget of the firm, he cannot touch the legacy of the family when it is protected by the ironclad laws of trust and probate. Edward, once considered the quietest of the brothers, has proven to be the most financially and legally astute, securing a fortune that remains invisible to the public but very real to the king. While Charles manages the state, Edward is quietly becoming the keeper of the family's private wealth. Comparing the two brothers in the Shakespearean drama of the House of Windsor, the narrative of the Spare is usually one of rebellion, exile, or scandal. But as the legal confirmations of 2026 have shown, Prince Edward has rewritten that script entirely. While King Charles spent his long tenure as Prince of Wales navigating the complexities of the Duchy of Cornwall and public scrutiny of his personal life, Edward was quietly building a reputation for what insiders call inner steel, a legal and professional stability that has now made him the most reliable pillar of the monarchy. The shock currently felt by the royal family isn't just about the assets Edward has secured. It is about the realization that the youngest brother, once seen as the quiet one, has technically and legally outmaneuvered the sovereign's own consolidation plans. The contrast between the two brothers is rooted in their approach to institutional longevity. Charles, as king, is focused on the state, the public-facing, taxpayer-funded entity that requires constant streamlining and transparency to survive a modern era. Edward, conversely, has focused on the family, the private legal infrastructure that ensures the Windsors remain a power regardless of the political climate. This difference became legally significant during the 2022 amendment to the Regency Acts, which formally added Edward and Princess Anne as lifelong counselors of state. While the king was forced to sideline Prince Andrew and Prince Harry due to their respective scandals and departures, Edward's legal standing remained impeccable, making him the leading man for royal duties, while Charles and William have dealt with significant health and family challenges in recent years. Edward's legal team has confirmed that his position as a counselor of state is not merely ceremonial. It is a constitutional fail-safe. Since 2002, when he and Sophie transitioned into full-time working royals, Edward has undertaken one of the highest volumes of royal engagements, nearly 300 in 2023 alone, second only to the King and Princess Anne. This workhorse mentality has paid off in the form of legal trust. When the king's lawyers reviewed the distribution of royal responsibilities and assets in early 2026, they found that Edward's branch of the family was the only one with the stability to manage the newly unlocked Philip Trusts and Bagshot Park's commercial interests without triggering public outcry or legal challenges. Furthermore, the confirmation of Edward's inheritance highlights a successful move to protect the junior branch of the family from the slimming down that has affected others. While the king has stripped titles and reduced the financial footprints of non-working members, Edward's team has ensured his kids, Lady Louise and James, are legally integrated into the family's private wealth structures. Even though they do not use prince or princess titles, their financial future is more secure than that of many higher-ranking royals. This highlights the fundamental difference in the brothers' legacies. Charles is preserving the crown, but Edward has successfully preserved the Windsors. By 2026, the power dynamic has shifted. Charles is the sovereign of the United Kingdom, but Edward has become the sovereign of the family's private estate. This legal dual track has created a situation where the king finds himself needing to negotiate with his brother for the use of assets and the delegation of duties. Edward is no longer the spare, waiting for a role. He is the manager of the family's most vital legal and financial assets, a position confirmed by his lawyers and necessitated by the king's own restructuring. But this isn't just about money. It's about the very survival of the Windsor brand. The Sophie factor, the secret weapon in the legal room. In the high-stakes negotiations of the royal household, legal prowess is often bolstered by a different kind of expertise, the art of the narrative. While Prince Edward's legal team provided the technical framework for his inheritance, many palace insiders point to the Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie, as the strategic architect behind the couple's most significant victories. Sophie's background in professional public relations, having co-founded her own agency, RJH Public Relations, before becoming a full-time royal, has proven to be an invaluable asset in a family where optics are often as powerful as law. In the 2026 climate of royal restructuring, it was Sophie's keen understanding of media leverage and institutional reputation that reportedly forced the king's advisors to reconsider their more aggressive slimming-down maneuvers. Sophie's influence is rooted in a unique legal and emotional standing. She was famously dubbed the late Queen Elizabeth's true favorite and a second daughter. This wasn't merely a personal bond, it translated into material and legal support during the Queen's lifetime. As early as 2002, when Sophie transitioned into her full-time role, the Queen took the unprecedented step of allowing her to stay on Buckingham Palace grounds even before her marriage, and later ensured the couple had a secure base at Bagshot Park after Sophie's firm shuttered. By 2026, Sophie's legal team has reportedly leveraged these historical precedents of favor to argue that the late Queen intended for the Edinburghs to remain a permanent, well-funded fixture of the working monarchy. Her PR instincts have been particularly sharp in the battle over the Duke of Edinburgh title and the associated assets. While King Charles may have initially leaned toward a more restrictive interpretation of the title's inheritance, Sophie understood that the public and the broader Windsor brand saw the title as a sacred promise made by the late Queen and Prince Philip. Her advisors were able to frame the legal confirmation of the title not as an act of greed by Edward, but as a fulfillment of his mother's dying wishes. In the court of public opinion, where Charles is often sensitive to his popularity ratings, Sophie's ability to align Edward's legal claims with the late Queen's legacy created a reputational shield that made it politically impossible for the king to deny them. Furthermore, Sophie's work with over 70 charities, particularly her focus on women's rights, peace building, and disability advocacy, has made her one of the most popular members of the firm. This high public approval rating has given her husband significant leverage in internal negotiations regarding the royal estate. When the king's strategic reviews suggested reclaiming certain commercial incomes from Bagshot Park, it was reportedly Sophie's team that pointed out the negative PR impact of evicting or financially penalizing the monarchy's most industrious female champion. The Sophie factor is the bridge between the dry legal documents and the living monarchy. She has successfully turned her husband's quiet nature into an asset by providing the vocal, strategic, and professional front needed to navigate the modern media landscape. By the time the final signatures were dry on the 2026 inheritance confirmations, it was clear that the Duchess had done more than just support her husband. She had professionalized his legal defense. Through her, the Edinburghs have proven that in the 21st century monarchy, the most secure inheritance is the one that is both legally airtight and publicly unassailable. With the legal ink dry, the map of the royal estates has been permanently redrawn. Charles's failed consolidation. At the heart of the 2026 royal power struggle lies a fundamental clash of visions for the future of the monarchy's vast financial empire. King Charles III has long been the primary advocate for a slimmed-down institution, a policy designed to ensure the crown's survival in an era of increasing fiscal scrutiny. His goal was simple: consolidate the diverse revenue streams, the sovereign grant, the Duchy of Lancaster, and the Crown Estate, under a more centralized, efficient authority. However, the legal confirmation of Prince Edward's inheritance has created a significant leak in this consolidation pipe, leaving the king to navigate a dilemma that is as much about family dynamics as it is about constitutional law. The king's strategy for 2026 was predicated on the idea that as older Grace and Favour residences became vacant, they would be folded back into the Duchy of Lancaster, where the income could be used to offset the rising costs of the working monarchy. This ancient private estate, which generated over £28.7 million in the 2024-25 period, is the king's primary source of private funding. By bringing properties like Bagshot Park under the duchy's direct control, Charles hoped to create a more robust privy purse that could sustain the family without relying so heavily on the taxpayer-funded sovereign grant, which is projected to reach £137.9 million by 2027. However, Edward's legal team successfully argued that his 150-year lease and the specific trusts established by Prince Philip place his assets entirely outside the reach of the king's consolidation efforts. Under the Crown Estate Act 2025, which reinforced the management practices of royal lands, Edward's lease remains a legally binding commercial contract that the king, despite being the sovereign, cannot unilaterally terminate. This means that while Charles has successfully evicted or relocated other family members, most notably the former Prince Andrew, who was moved from Royal Lodge to a smaller cottage at Sandringham in early 2026, he has been forced to accept Edward as a permanent and independent tenant-in-chief. This failure to consolidate Edward's holdings is not just a financial setback, it is a blow to the king's authority. Within the palace, the Edinburgh exception is seen as a blueprint for how other family members might resist the king's reforms. If Edward can use legal counsel to safeguard his lifestyle and assets, it weakens Charles's ability to demand similar sacrifices from others. The king's dilemma is exacerbated by the fact that he currently relies on Edward and Sophie more than ever to maintain the monarchy's public schedule. To move against Edward's legal team would risk alienating his most loyal and hard-working allies at a time when the working royal roster is already dangerously thin. Furthermore, the legal confirmation of Edward's rights has exposed a rift in how the business of the monarchy is handled. While Charles views the royal properties as institutional tools for the state, Edward's lawyers have successfully framed them as a family legacy, protected by the same property laws that apply to any other British citizen. This legal distinction has effectively shielded Edward's branch of the family from the king's fiscal pruning, creating a two-tier system within the House of Windsor: those who are subject to the king's consolidation, and those, like Edward, who have built a legal fortress around their inheritance. By mid-2026, the sovereign's dilemma has become clear. Charles may have the title of king, but he does not have total control over the family's wealth. The confirmation of Edward's claims represents a check on the sovereign's power, proving that even a king must answer to the long-term contracts and trust laws of the land. As Charles continues to push for a leaner monarchy, he must do so with the knowledge that his youngest brother has successfully carved out a permanent, legally protected enclave that the crown's own lawyers have confirmed is beyond the king's reach. The public sees a unified front, but the court records tell a story of a silent coup, a new power broker in the palace. By early 2026, the structural integrity of the British monarchy has reached a critical juncture, and at the center of this transition is the newly fortified position of the Duke of Edinburgh. As King Charles's reign moves into what insiders describe as a precautionary phase regarding his health, the legal confirmations secured by Prince Edward have transformed him from a supporting character into a vital power broker. The thing that initially rattled the palace has settled into a new, undeniable reality. While the Prince and Princess of Wales are being fast-tracked for the top job, Edward has become the indispensable legal and operational anchor of the current regime. The 2026 landscape is defined by a significant vacuum in the working royal roster. With the king facing treatment side effects that have reportedly left him exhausted at major state functions and the ongoing absence of Prince Harry and Andrew from official duties, the pool of effective counselors of state has shrunk to a core few: Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward. However, unlike the heir to the throne, who must focus on the heavy constitutional preparation for kingship, Edward's legal team has confirmed his role as the enforcer of the day-to-day royal enterprise. He now manages a staggering portfolio of over 70 patronages and military colonelcies, effectively stepping into the massive void left by the late Prince Philip. This 2026 shift is more than just a matter of scheduling. It is a matter of legal authority. Under the Councillors of State Act 2022, Edward was granted permanent authority to sign routine documents, attend Privy Council meetings, and receive ambassadors, powers that have become essential as the king's public appearances are strategically reduced. While the public watches Prince William and Princess Kate take on monarchical powers through the granting of royal warrants, Edward has quietly secured the back office of the monarchy. His lawyers have confirmed that his status as a lifelong councillor of state, combined with his untouchable 150-year lease at Bagshot Park and his control over the Philip Shadow Trust, makes him the most legally secure member of the family. The result of this 2026 legal coup is a fundamental change in the hierarchy. No longer just a younger brother, Edward is now a senior executive within the firm, whose interests are protected by a web of ironclad contracts and trusts that even a king's reform cannot touch. His approval ratings, Currently holding steady with over 51% of the British public viewing him positively, provide him with the soft power to match his hard legal standing. As 2026 unfolds, the message from the Duke of Edinburgh's legal counsel is clear. The monarchy may be slimming down, and the crown may be preparing for a new head. But Prince Edward's place in the history and the future of the House of Windsor is now firmly and legally written in stone. To stay ahead of the next royal legal battle, subscribe now and never miss a great deep dive.